live everywhere.
We're live
Oh
everywhere.
my gosh, Geoff, welcome back.
Welcome back.
It's the Geoff and Kira show once more.
We're here, and it's been a little bit of a break there.
Do you remember when we had our show in January and we talked about this really crazy thing that was just popping up, and it was called the Wuhan virus?
I do. I
and
remember
it was
quite
like,
well.
oh, I don't know. We don't know what this is. And then we got demonetized, actually, interestingly enough, because YouTube was thinking that we were pushing out some sort of
like one of those
conspiracy
theories you see online. Well, we were talking about this virus that could potentially come here.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like January 24th or 5th. It was the day. It was actually tragically the day Kobe died.
Right.
And yeah, it was the day Kobe died, and yeah, we were talking about it, discussing it, and nobody really knew much about it at that point. And that video, among others, because it was controversial, they demonetized the video on YouTube because it was a controversial topic and nobody knew about it at that time.
And here we are.
But here we are.
June 16th, episode
38,
and we now call this whole thing a pandemic and a coronavirus and COVID, and now it's actually a thing.
And now it's turned into this thing. Yeah,
actually, like a real. Where I'm sure we won't be demonetized after this video because it's actually real. Sorry, YouTube. How have you been holding up?
I've been holding up quite well. I have really been just working and keeping everything going in my life. I find it fascinating. Now that we are slowly, well, it's accelerated recently, hasn't it? Yeah. The opening up. And you now have all of these rules about, that there's work and there's, masks and no masks. Right. And there's people, there's different layers of what you can do and what you can't do.
Right.
And it seems very complicated because it varies by state and it varies by, county, and it varies by restaurant. I mean, people are doing different things.
It is, and I've noticed, and you've seen a progression from the beginning of all of this, right? When all this was going on, we were all like, oh, this was before even the masks were required, back in early March, when it was like, oh, we're going to go into lockdown. This is going to be martial law. That's when things were like really crazy. And then all of a sudden you noticed people were banding together. They were like, oh, who needs what? Communities would come together. Neighbors were like, hey, I've got this ingredient if you need it. Or, really coming together. It really pulled the fabric of society together. And then you started into the pandemic, and then there was mask shaming, where you would go outside and people would be like, rah, and attack that you weren't wearing your mask.
Yeah, that's right.
And then all of a sudden you saw the fibers being pulled apart again. It was really nice, actually, a community that was, you could feel everyone like, we're all in this together.
There was more uniting.
All of a sudden,
yeah,
it's being pulled back out, and now we're at the point where it's business shaming.
Yeah.
So I work as a Pilates instructor part-time, and there was a client who was shaming the Pilates studio for opening up when we're allowed to. And it's, saying that, you're putting clients at risk, and it's like, we're not forcing you to work out, and we're legally allowed by county and state and country law,
Mm-hmm.
But people are really now, you're either in this camp of just stay locked in your house until there's a vaccine, or this camp where you're like, you and I, we're like, you know what, if we get sick, we get sick, and I can't live in a bunker.
Yeah. Well, and here's my belief on that. I mean, you're allowed to. I mean, I, as an essential worker, have been able to. The entire pandemic. I was actually working at a job throughout the pandemic, and we were all very cautious. With masks and with gloves, and all of that. And I still am that way even when I go out. However, the rules are, and I've been to restaurants and such, when people are having lunch and dinner at a table together, they don't have to keep their masks on. So two people can sit at a table like we're doing right now and not have masks on. That is the mandate as far as what's happening. So if anybody's like wondering about that. However, when you get up and you go to the restroom or whatever, you then have to put your mask on.
Right.
So what I believe is in following whatever the mandate is from the state and city that I'm living in as far as the rules go. And when you're at Target or when you're in the grocery, you wear a mask. I was at Whole Foods the other night, you wear a mask. So so I believe, yes, they help, and yes, they work, and that people should follow whatever the guidelines are that are being thrown down. So I don't believe that people should, you should do first of all, you should do what feels best for you. That's the first thing, whatever feels best.
Right.
But you also, you should listen to your local governments as far as if they are saying it's okay to go to a restaurant. I wouldn't live in fear of that.
How do you feel about the people, and there's a strong group of people in society right now that are like, don't tell me that I have to wear a mask. I can't breathe. And now the airlines are all creating fines, banning. They've said if they see anyone coming onto their flight, they're going to ban them.
Really?
Yeah. Which is like, okay, they're, which makes sense. My God, you're stuck in like a cesspool in an air, on a flight.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just circulating air, and you're sitting on that flight for X amount of hours. Like, dear Lord. Well, of course you should be wearing a mask. But how do you feel about that? Down in Orange County, the here in California, they had the health department, the head of the health department had to resign. She was getting death threats because she was requiring people to wear masks when they leave the house. And it's and then there was this massive just push against infringing on my rights as a human being where I don't have to wear a mask. And it's like, yeah, but if it saves you and saves someone else from potentially contracting not even COVID, take COVID aside.
Yeah.
Flu or anything else that's can be transmittable through the air, why is that a bad thing? And do you see it as a political thing where you see certain people in certain parties are leaning toward the you're infringing on my rights type of thing versus, hey, basic humanity?
Yes. Okay. The answer to all of that is yes. The yes is all around. Basically, I don't know why these things become so political. First of all, because I don't understand any of it really. But the one side, feels that it's infringing on the rights, and it also there's like a demasculating, and they think it's like, submissive putting a mask on, and then it's not.
I haven't heard that one.
Oh yeah, they think that it's like violating their rights as like a manhood thing.
I think it's rad. I think it looks cool, like a ninja. I'd be like
which is what's so interesting because it also can make you look like a badass, like a ninja if you have the right.
Maybe don't wear the the white ones. Get a black one.
Right.
Then you feel like a man again. If that's the problem.
Yeah, get like a badass
ninja
supervillain one or something.
Hello. All the goth people are super stoked right now because they're like, yes, we get to wear masks all the time. And so I don't. That's all subjective as far as taking that it violates your your masculinity or something like that's because it can look just as badass. So that whole argument can go either way. That's the first thing. The second thing is the masks are. It's been proven. Medical experts have now proven. Initially the general, what's his name? The surgeon general, and the general surgeon and the CDC. They were saying don't get masks because they wanted medical workers to have it, which was a big mistake by them. Yeah.
And so people online were also saying don't get masks.
Right.
But the overall agreement now is that masks help that masks work, and you should follow whatever your local authorities are saying, because this is not a thing that's going to go for 10 years. You're going to wear the mask for as long as you're supposed to wear it, where you're supposed to wear it, and that's not everywhere. Like, again, you need to read the rules and see what they are, because I'm not in a mask every moment when I'm outside my door. Like, I'm not in one right now. So it's like, it doesn't bother. Like, it really bothers people.
It makes people so upset. And I've realized that it's neighborhood.
Yeah.
So, I was getting my hair done the other day, and my hairstylist said, my neighborhood's pretty relaxed. We don't have people that are, people, if you're 6 feet away, you don't feel like you need the masks on. In my neighborhood, it is like nails and claws out. If you walk out your door and you don't have a mask on, you're getting in potentially a physical fight.
Are you serious?
With someone, because people here are like rabid. And they're the nicest people. But the minute you're going against, and I wear my mask constantly, so but at the same time, I'm also, if I see someone not wearing a mask, I'm not going to go approach them and get angry. But it seems to be in pockets where it's like, these people are super strict. These people are like, hey, we get it. If you're 6 feet away from me, you don't need to wear a mask, But it just is very interesting to see. It's always interesting to me to see, sociology. This is like a social experiment, to be honest, of how everyone reacts to something like this. And everyone's going, and this goes along with the protests and the all of everything else that's going on. How do you react as an individual out in society? And then I've got friends who are like deathly scared of this COVID, like freaking out. And I'm considered high risk because I've had pneumonia 3 times and bronchitis like 4 or 5 times. But I'm like, okay, I put a mask on. I'm not going to get crazy with this. Do you know what I mean? Personally, if I get sick and die, then I get sick and die. But there are people that are taking this like, I'm not going back to work until there's a vaccine, and it's like, holy shit.
I mean, I understand the people who are staying in. If you have a comorbidity, or you have you're older a certain age, over a certain age, or there's medical health concerns for you, or something that make you more high risk. I certainly understand wanting to stay inside and be extra cautious, but I do too understand that you can go out now, and there's generally there's always some risk, but we don't know the amount of risk, but I believe it's less now than it was 3 months ago, where if you wear a mask and you take the precautions that they advise, there's a solid chance that things are going to be okay. But again, it is your risk. So I can only say. I think
it's interesting. By now, we still don't have a lot of information about the virus. There's still reporters will ask questions to the top health officials, and they still will answer sometimes like, we don't have a lot of information yet, and it's like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
That you haven't been able to really do the entire genome of this entire virus and to really understand it, because there's still like now asymptomatic people may not spread it as much as we thought, or they and it's like,
well, I'll tell you why.
How do you not know all this by now? It's June. This has been around since last year.
Yeah, it's because humans we're kind of dumb. We're like, I mean that in the nicest way possible.
Every time I ask Geoff what is happening, he's like, yeah, it's because humans are dumb.
We're just dumb. like we're just not that we don't. There's a lot. We have a long way to go and a lot to learn about things, and the experts aren't right as much as you think that they are. There's a lot to learn still. These things, they don't even know why when viruses peter out, they don't even know why that happens, apparently. That's like subjective. So there's just a lot that's out of our control, and listen to the experts, but even the experts aren't right a lot of the time. So you have to. It's a lot of stumbling around in the dark, to be honest.
Yeah.
I know that doesn't give people a lot of hope about this, but they are at the same time making progress. The progress is being made, so you can have faith in that side of things. And so, overall, I mean, the last episode that we did was kind of our Coronavirus 2 episode, which was over at the studio window space. Right. And then that was in mid-March, and now we're to mid-June. And, we've just started to open up things in the last couple weeks, and so far it's good. Now, what's interesting is I think we're all very curious now, because with a combination of going back to work and, we've now had the protests the past couple weeks, right, after the tragic, George Floyd incident. People are discussing now, is there going to be a second wave of the virus? And, the debate will become what contributed to that. Was it the protests, or was it the going back to work or opening too early? Was it people not?
Who cares?
People not following the rules. There's going to be a huge debate within the media and within the country about what caused the second wave, if the second wave comes. And I don't know how we avoid a second wave.
My biggest concern is how I really, as much as this whole pandemic has been obviously extremely stressful. A lot of people, and unfortunately, a lot of people have lost loved ones because of it. And it's in no way, when I say this, am I taking away from the pain and suffering that people have gone through. But at the beginning of this pandemic, back in late February, early March, you did see like this community, like, wow, maybe this is what we needed to kind of right the world again. The world was like splitting in two, especially here in the US, and it almost seemed like this came at a pivotal time where we could all kind of come back together and be like a community again.
To unite.
And then now all of a sudden we're like completely ripped apart again. And I don't blame that on anyone except for humans in general and how we treat one another. And now, as it pertains to race and equality, which has always been something that always needed more emphasis, it just all of a sudden now blooms into something more because we're all have been stuck in our houses for the past 3 months. We're seeing all of this inequality, and we're sick of it. And then it's like pouring gasoline, and now it's just like, let's just burn the whole thing down. Because that's where everyone's at. It's like, let's just burn it down.
Yeah, and right. Okay, so we were all caught up in the virus. Everybody was inside for 3 months, and so that energy of being like kept up and inside,
explosion
with no sports, and with no. I always talk about the sports because I think sports are a big part of it. All of that being kept inside had to go somewhere, and then the George Floyd incident happened, and all of that energy,
right,
burst out into the public.
It reminds me of like when, did you ever make volcanoes when you're in science?
Yes. Out of, how did we do that?
You did a paper mache, this is what we did. We did
like marshmallows or something?
Marshmallows.
Something. I don't remember. Go ahead. I don't need a marshmallow volcano.
It would be baking soda and vinegar. And then you would put a little bit of color dye and make it red, and it would baking soda and vinegar is what makes things like...
Oh, it would make the volcano explode.
Have you never done a baking soda and vinegar?
I think so. Where would you put it, though?
You'd put it in a hole, in a crate. Hole. Yeah, like a crater. You create like
a diet lava or something, and
or you create like a paper mache. Anyways, next episode we'll create a volcano.
We're gonna do a volcano.
Apparently, Geoff never had science.
I thought there's something with marshmallows or something. Okay, anyway, keep going.
It's like like that. It was okay. We're all stuffed in our house. We're all like, we've got military trucks running. They
brought
shit was
in the
getting
National
real
Guard.
here. And then all you needed was either an earthquake or some shooting to happen for it to ignite all of that pent up
had to go somewhere
and anxiety, and it exploded. And that's where we're at right now. Which, is it a bad thing? Absolutely not. These are conversations that have been going on for a millennia.
Right.
And nothing really gets done.
Right.
The protests just whittle away and they get quiet and nothing really happens.
Yeah.
And this is what it's needed to happen. Unfortunately, it has taken this ultra crazy route. Mm-hmm. So you've got like the KKK and the racists, right? Then you've got the people that hate racism so much that they'll burn businesses down. And it turns into like a fanatical. So you've got this disparity. And unfortunately, the one that's burning buildings and killing people because they're so angry about racism is putting a bad name on
the peaceful
truly
protests.
what work everyone's trying to do.
That's
and
right.
I think this all had, unfortunately, had George Floyd situation and incident, murder, had happened outside of COVID, I'm not sure it would have turned into such a massive, explosion.
Well, I think it would have, because then there might have been another incident that came, or another
because
someone being shot.
Because there's been so many, St. Louis, Baltimore, that none of them have turned into this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, this one was especially the manner in which it happened and everything with it was especially bad. That said, I think there have been a lot of other bad ones, and more have now surfaced.
It's like every day.
So I think it eventually, that energy was going to go somewhere, and it's the people. It's a real that all of this is very difficult, and it's now we've had other recent ones. What was it? The Rashard Brooks one,
You're right?
At the Wendy's recently. And there's been other videos that have been popping up, and it's really, all of it is upsetting, and I think that it's shining light on issues and problems that we need to work through, and that need addressing right away. And I think that I really, it's upsetting for everybody. And I think that you look back at what happened with like Colin Kaepernick, when he was kneeling with, that was for racial injustices, police brutality, and systemic racism.
And he was like basically shooed away from the NFL.
Yeah,
he basically lost his career because he was standing up for. And now it's all of a sudden Goodell is like, oh, a team should. Hire him. And it's like, it's too little too late. It's almost, I personally think all of this happened, this whole earth needed just a turn off and then a reset.
Like a reset button on the...
COVID did that. We stopped it because we were polluting this earth to oblivion to the point where we're all going to die. If you noticed, everyone probably saw the news when everyone's stuck at home. Oh, what do you know? No pollution. Birds are chirping. It's beautiful out. There's no smog. China was you could actually see, you could probably walk down China's streets and it's like, hey, I can see people. The smog there's atrocious. So, just as LA is about to open, the day LA is about to open restaurants, this shooting happens. And then it's it was almost... It's not even almost. I personally think it was because it's the universe is saying you're not ready to open yet. You still have this. Yes, great. Nature's good.
Because
COVID.
the universe is saying,
wait a second. You need to fix this first before you open up again.
Fix the virus or fix
the racial stuff that's never ever truly been taken care of and fixed.
Okay. Yeah, right. Okay. So there's certain things. First of all, before it happened, there were certain things that because that energy was kept up. Okay, time went by, that energy was kept up. It wasn't able to go anywhere, and it released. Now there were certain things that pandemic were helping. They were helping, and an example of that, a great example of that, is sports. And I talked about this on my Twitter feed. And that sports has always been great for the racial divide, because you see teams winning together, you see race working together on teams. They're winning and losing. That was always a big aspect. That said, there was still a problem, and there's always been a problem. And so people that say that there's a problem are absolutely right. Now, when I talk about it, I try not to, because I'm Caucasian, I can't immediately step into the shoes of someone who's of an African American, because they've experienced it and they know. So I always want to talk to them, because I don't want to speak like I have experienced what the feeling is. Yeah. So I defer to them because they're credible on it.
Yeah.
So if I get it wrong, I always want to talk to them more. But so I always want to get that out of the way first. That I'm not the most credible source on this, but I'm trying to help what I can. And I think that, so there were things that helped before, like sports, but now that people are seeing this more and seeing what's happened, we have to start looking at how can the world change to fix this problem? What can we do? And instead of just tweeting law and order and saying stuff, that there has to be people asking questions and figuring it out. And when they say defund the police, I know one side tends to get angry about that, but think about how the world could be that we haven't even seen yet. If you defund the police, which I don't think we should defund the police today or tomorrow, but I think that it's doable if we can envision a world where that's possible. And I think that we have to think about routes in our world that could make law enforcement happen where it still exists, but not in the form that it currently is now, which is through, money to the community, social workers, help when crime happens, helping these people in other ways. That's, if somebody robs a convenience store, not beating after them and going after them with guns, tasers, figuring out a way to help that person, right, to help them be a more improved human.
Right.
A more improved human. And a lot of people get mad and say, law and order, no, they should go to jail. But I think we have to start thinking outside the box more.
Well, I think it's the chicken and the egg kind of thing, where it's if you militarize police, and police here in the U.S. were militarized after the 60s, and even before that, where it was this, constant, oh my God, we're scared of black people, so we, in order to kind of shove them down and make sure there's law and order, we're going to militarize the police. And this was after the Civil War and through the 20s, and then it started getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and now you've got we've got some serious weaponry for our police here, which doesn't really exist in other countries.
Yeah.
This is a very unique country, and then we wonder why we have police brutality and stuff, and it's well, because we told them to do that years ago. We allowed it, and now it's we defunded all mental health, we defunded all of the community outreach and put it all into, let's arm our police like a military. And it's well, now, do you expect the citizens to just shrink down? Because then you're going to have the confrontation. Well, if you're militarized, then I need my and it's well, who's...
It escalates it.
Of course. So then you can't technically blame the citizen. It's blaming
the systems.
The system itself needs to completely change.
All of the systems within the system.
Now, could it happen tomorrow? Oh, absolutely not. But it's not about defunding the police.
And just getting rid of all law enforcement.
Let's get rid of police.
Correct.
Because
that's where it's misperceived. Yeah, that's right.
Because the minute someone breaks into your house,
right,
guess who you're calling?
That's right.
And if you defunded them, they're not helping you.
That's right.
But there obviously needs to be a massive change in the way we view law and order.
So nobody's right. So people are kind of half tweeting about it. They're saying defund the police, and then people are saying don't defund the police. So all I hear on Twitter is defund the police. Don't defund the police. Defund the police. Don't defund. And it's just like nobody's talking about like nobody's asking questions. They're just screaming at each other.
They're just like, what would that look like?
So we have to start asking, what would that look like, and how can we make it a better world? If someone robs a convenience store, who due to their back, the way that they were raised, whatever, they haven't learned that robbery isn't okay, and we have to, rather than send the cops and send that person to a trial and them go to jail, it like breaks my heart, these people who are in jail for however many years, 20 years for robbing, some Twizzlers from a 7-Eleven or something,
or Pampers for their baby, and it's
when you could take that person and you could make them take the Twizzlers back to the 7-Eleven and teach them that. And then instead of this hard trial after a struggle with police and everything, you could put them somewhere where they could be with people who are loving and caring and help that person be a better person.
Yeah, rehabilitate. And truly, that's what jails were supposed to do. But jail, when you get out of jail, you're not rehabilitated. Mm-hmm. I think there's an extreme high percentage that you go back into. It's one, almost impossible to get a job when you have anything on your record, and two, most of the time they have nothing, and because they can't get a job, they go back into crime because it's all they know.
Right.
There needs to be a different fabric in our society that doesn't involve force. This
right.
The U.S. is built our foundation, and that's why a lot of countries look at us like, what the hell is wrong with you? Mm-hmm. Like in Britain, they don't have the police don't walk around with guns. They have batons, and they don't have the mass shootings that we have here. There's reasons for that, but the U.S. was built on power and strength and military. Mm-hmm. That's what we're known for. We are not Denmark. We are not Norway. We are not known for empathy. But they teach that at a 3-year-old level in those countries where it's like, this is what empathy is. This is why it's important. And they have like one shooting a year out of the entire country. And there's a reason for that. We just never put stock or value into love, compassion, empathy. Right. I don't like you because you're a different color than me. I'm scared of you, so I'm gonna call police. Just or whatever. There's got to be some fight, and it's really pulling the strings back apart from our society. I mean, we've like ripped back open again.
Right. So the question is going to be, I think that's very insightful, Kira. She's just
welcome back, Kira.
So insightful. I mean, it's like amazing. But I think that people are going to ask, though. The next question is, just playing from the sides here is like, where's the line? Where's the line? Where do you draw the line with people who commit crimes? If someone's a terrorist, do you rehab them or do you throw them in a jail? If someone's where's the line? And I think it's why are they a terrorist? It's not. Well, look what they did, which fair is probably horrific. Let's say they killed. Asking why?
Why did they go down that road? And can we prevent it in the next person? Was their father abusive or sexually assaulted them, and they we never get to the root of things. We just look at the crime or look at the person and say, okay, you're bad, and here's your judgment. And
where did we get caught in? How did that happen?
What about the individual person and where they came from?
Right.
And
we don't ask questions.
We don't ask questions, and we'll give a shit. It's like, you go to jail because you murdered this person. It's like, okay, fair. That's law and order. But is there any part in jail that says, let's talk about what made you go into those decisions? Can we try and rehabilitate and change your perception? Mm-hmm. Are you depressed? Do you have anxiety? Do you need meds? You know what I mean? These are things that are all defunded because all the money goes to police. Mm-hmm. That's what people, I think, when they say defund the police, I think that's what they mean. Is like, let's pull some of the fight and might. That is what they mean. Put it toward community services. For example, you mentioned the guy Rashad
Brooks.
Right.
Rashad Brooks.
Who
yeah, we had this debate was going on this morning.
Yeah, who was murdered by a police officer in a drive-through a Wendy's in Atlanta. And it's so the cops pull him over. He's drunk.
He was in the drive-through.
He's in the drive-through.
Right? I think and he was drunk and passed out.
Passed out. So of course they called the cops because people are like, I want my freaking chicken fingers, like get out of the way. And here's this passed out dude, right?
He was passed out in the line.
Correct. So they wake him up. The police kind of guide him over, take a breathalyzer. He's like 2 or 3 times over the limit. So he's clearly drunk and driving. Okay, no one really disputes this part. The next part is what needs to change. Is do you say, hey guy, let's call you a Uber, let's get you home safe?
Well, that's what Wesley tweeted, which I posted on Facebook. He posted Wesley. I don't remember his last name. Sorry, but he's really a smart guy, and am I interrupting the story or do you? But I don't know. We're just story time. Go.
No, just kidding.
Anyway, what we were getting to is, they pulled Wesley, and I posted on Facebook, tweeted about. Getting to a world where you put him in the Uber and send him home.
And they do that. I've heard of instances where cops will pull someone. You'll see video of it, like randomly, like, oh, that was really nice of the cop. They let him go. And it's like, why?
He fired at him. He deserved what he got. They said he stole the taser and they fired him. He deserved what he got.
I've heard this. So we got a comment on Twitter, just for you guys out there, that, said, hey, he fired. So what had happened was there was if you guys don't know, the ins and outs, there was a struggle because they were going to put handcuffs on him and take him to jail because he was driving under the influence. There was a struggle. He pulled the taser out of one of the officers, holsters or hand, and started running with it. So he's running, and there's body cam and Wendy's surveillance of this whole thing. He's running, looks back, and fires the taser. Now, at that point, that's when the officers shoot and kill him. The problem with that is, and I'm responding to that Twitter comment specifically, and to anyone else who thinks this, legally, you are not allowed to discharge your weapon that's military as well as police officers unless your life is being threatened or other people's lives are threatened. A taser is not life-threatening, and that's where the problem lies.
So they overstepped their bounds again.
Completely overstepped. This is after they patted him down and did a full, okay, you don't have anything else on you. They know he doesn't have any guns. All he had was the taser that he pulled, but that's not life-threatening. So should he have pulled the taser or stolen the taser? And, of course not. The problem is the officers panicked, and the first thing that they do is reach for their gun. That part, whether these guys are charged or not with murder, it's outside of this. That part of I'm scared as an officer, and the one thing I'm going to pull out is a gun, is the part that needs changed. You cannot just disarm your weapon on a civilian who's firing a taser at you. That's not how our society's built. That's not how cops are trained. And that's the problem. That's right. Where the problem lies. Had he taken a gun, started shooting at them, absolutely. At that point, the cops are able to then draw their weapon and fire. It's a taser. It's not life-threatening, and it's not life-threatening to any other civilian. So at that point, they committed murder. Yeah. And that's the crux of the issue. That's right.
So the point, I guess it would come down to, though, is what people are going to argue, though, is that the guy was, and they've already argued it. It's arguing on my Facebook today, and so is that he was intoxicated, he was breaking the law, he had DUI, and that he should go to jail. Now, again, this gets into the concept of, two sides that are correct, but one is a little bit more correct. And that would be, yes, that's the law. Like, having a DUI or whatever is the law. Nobody wants to break the law unless they're a criminal. We should not be breaking the law, okay? Nobody should be breaking the law, okay? Let's get that. So, guys, I know people come in with the law and order. Yes, it's law and order. Like, everybody gets it, okay? But the other way that Wesley and that other people, Jason, my friend from high school, was commenting, and like the other way gets us to a better world.
Right.
Okay? Where, and you're like, well, there's always going to be criminals. Well, maybe not.
Why?
Maybe there's not.
Yeah.
If we start structuring a society around helping people be better people,
right,
it's the bigger frame to a better world. So in the small picture, in the present moment, yes, somebody was breaking the law. But until we start looking to each other to figure out how we make people better people, we're just going to be sending people to jail for 20 years for small crimes and ruining their life. That doesn't excuse what they did, robbing something, DUI. That doesn't mean that wasn't wrong, because that was wrong, and they broke the law. But you have to kind of hold both ideas in your head at the same time. Okay?
Are there other ways?
There's another idea. You can hold the idea in your head that this other that gets us to a better world. Like, how do we help that person improve too? So it's complicated in that way, and some people are going to say, well, if somebody commits murder, if they kill my son, then they should go to jail. That person should be punished. And that person, as far as law, that's the current law. Like that's true.
Right. Is there another way?
Is there a way to start getting around where people won't want to kill each other anymore? We'll
is it fight versus fight? Is it might versus might? Or is there a different way to lower crime and violence? So if you yourself as a police officer are violent towards civilians, whether right or wrong, does that not perpetuate the problem of showing violence and might? Isn't there another way? And there's other countries outside the US that do this very well, where they don't carry assault rifles with them, and they don't have people. They don't have mass shootings. So it's almost like we're having so much crime that we're like, more police, and then there's more crime, and then there's more and it's like, wait, that's not doing anything. It's chicken the egg. It's like, okay, well, if you're gonna push me, there's the people that are gonna push back. So It's like, how do you strip that away?
Yeah.
And create a different way of helping people versus just throwing them in jail, killing them, shooting them, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What's YouTube saying?
100%. Well, YouTube's saying, let's see, it was an interruption. I hope good comes from all this. Jamie89 is saying this. Yeah, I hope good comes from all this too. Look at all the clear weather and less smog. Yeah, that's regarding the virus. I've been to prison. It is a system to tear a person down rather than rehabilitate. Drugs are usually a cause of theft. Some jails are an exception. Yeah, okay, so a lot of the jails are just tearing people down. I mean, solitary confinement, I just think is, I personally think it's awful.
Abuse. I mean, it's,
And yeah, this Jamie person was commenting a lot, saying social distancing, even on the East Coast, and that they believe using masks, practicing self-awareness is good for everyone, regardless of what the mass media says. Yeah, I agree. Okay, so Jamie had some comments on that, but I think that I had something about what you were saying just regarding everything. Oh, it was about, okay, so we see all of that, and what she just said, was genius. She's genius.
Love all these compliments.
Yeah, she's just smart. And so, okay, and so that was smart. And then, but I was going to say, now we've got in Seattle the Chaz thing, and we'll wind down here in a couple minutes, but what's happening with Chaz and this city they're forming in the middle of Seattle, which, okay, again, it's the same debate, okay, it's bad, because it's bad in that they're breaking, they're hurting businesses and using city's money, and, it's not legal technically, and all of that's bad. So that's one idea. So you gotta hold it in the brain. That's one, okay? So a lot of people that think that it's bad, like Tucker Carlson and people. Tucker Carlson said it's like setting up a fort in your parents' garage or something like that. That's what he viewed as me. Okay, so I understand all that. Okay, so I understand that. But that being said, we also need to. You have to kind of not. how do I say it? You have to kind of, in order to break through, to get to ideas where we can have a new system of things, like what she and I have been discussing for 20 minutes, you have to kind of try things. You have to kind of start these new societies within the society.
Right.
And I know that people like Tucker aren't going to necessarily like that. But first of all, so I think it's interesting watching what's happening in Seattle. It's very, I have some kind of mixed feelings. I find it very interesting, but I don't think that it's going to last in downtown Seattle. Is Seattle even still standing? Right. But they need to go to a field in Montana or something. Somebody was telling me this morning, or who was it? Who told me that this actually happens? I heard somewhere, but like there's actually this autonomous zone stuff has happened before, in like Europe in cities. People have formed autonomous zones, but. So maybe go to like a field in Montana or something and do it.
That sounds reservation-y to me.
Because I think it
that you have to be careful with that, where it's like you go off onto your reservation. We're over here, and that sounds very, very archaic, Jeff.
Let them try it.
Be very careful with that.
But if they want to try it, they can try it. That's what they're doing, right?
I get it, but it sounds like very American Indian-ish, very history repeating-y.
I don't think so. I think that we can build.
Like here, go into the wastelands where there's not where you know.
No,
don't try it in Seattle. Just go.
Well, I think that we can. That it's interesting to see. It's interesting what's happening there, but I don't know that the middle of a city. It's really going to.
It's going to be fascinating to see if it burns all down, or. But frankly, there's that piece. You know, I told Jeff when this all started, and I've told a bunch of other people, you know, we live in a society, you know, it's 2020, hindsight 2020, and we weren't around when the Romans were ruling the entire world, and we weren't around for the Ottoman Empire, and we weren't around for the dynasties that no longer exist, right? There is no such thing as a Roman Empire. We're possibly in a moment in a history, you know, where we're in the history in the making, obviously every day, but this could be a society that doesn't exist years later. Do you know what I mean? There will be massive changes or your empire falls. I mean, look at who thought the Romans would ever fall? No one.
Right.
Whoever thought Great Britain wouldn't own all of the world until the U.S. was like, or, you know, until people founded the U.S. I mean, every society has a rise and fall, you know, and you have to have that in order to change with society. If you don't, you do fall. Right. So this time is very uncomfortable, very, very trying, very anxiety-ridden, very scary and angering and all those things. And that's okay to feel all of that. It's needed in order to change our society, or we will fall, just like all those other empires did. We have to go through this, and it just so happens we're all alive during this monumental time in our society.
So we need to think about our systems. We need to rework some things, and we need to think about change. And only by going through everything we've discussed do we get to a better world.
Change is good. Embrace. Don't be scared. Just embrace it. It's going to be okay. We will be okay.
So that's our spiel today for you all. And
I'm so excited to see you.
I know, we're back. We're back at it until we get the second wave of
No, Jeff,
Corona.
God, what are you?
And then we're all going to be going home again.
So
I
self-fulfilling
don't know how we're not getting it. I get too negative sometimes for people when all I talk is positive. Yeah, like some people online think I'm negative, and I'm like, no, I'm trying to be positive here. I'm just being realistic. Anyway, my imaginary twin sister, and I always enjoy chatting with you guys. And
yes, thank you for all your comments. I hope you guys are all well. Stay safe out there. I hate using that term because it's obnoxious, because it's like, oh, but truly. Stay safe.
One comment from Spencer's Mustache as we wrap up. Chaz is like a teacher stepping out of a classroom for a bit too long.
Okay, or it's just like
way to look at it.
Chaos.
Chaos, yeah. Thank you guys here at Launch Radio, here at Geoff and Kira Live. We are the future, and the future is Geoff and Kira Live.
See you guys next week.
Peace out. Later.